Juran, it is live now.
Start.
Yes.
Hi, everyone. A very warm welcome to this session of Let Us Talk It ZIPINAR. Here we bring you new topics, new speakers, and we always try to bring topics that our speakers are passionate about. And that is this week's topic, which we are all prone to, is how to avoid burnout in this fast-paced world. And to speak on that, we have our speaker, Ashwin Nandapurkar. And he loves solving problems, as it is a combination of his two favorite things: making a positive impact in the lives of others and hustling and experimenting to get to the end destination. And in his LinkedIn profile, he doesn't put him as the founding what he has done, but he loves numbers, and that's what he has put in, what he can make, what he has made, and what he can help you make. So I guess this will be an interesting session, and we are absolutely honored to have you, Ashwin. Over to you.
Thank you so much for the warm introduction, Julian. I'm honored to talk to the community here. I'm very happy that I'm able to contribute and help people with my experience and with the problems that I have faced in my life. So, as Julian mentioned, I'm going to be talking about burnout today. Burnout is something which is very close to my heart, simply because I have gone through it a couple of times. Not like I've gone through burnout once, and I have almost gone through burnout once again post that. So that's why I chose this topic, and I think this is something which a lot of us are experiencing in some form or the other because of the pandemic. So before I get into it, I would just like to uh, introduce myself, tell you guys what I have done in the past and why I think I can talk about burnout. So I am a startup guy. I call myself a startup guy because I have been in startups for about 10 years. I've founded 3 startups myself. None of them worked, but learned a lot. Post that, I've done multiple full-time and consulting roles in startups. Throughout my career, I have been working in startups. And in my most recent role, I've done multiple things in the same role. I was the founding team member of a virtual events SaaS platform named Remo. And during this time was when I went through my burnout cycle. So, okay. So in today's world, what happens is most of us are meeting people through a screen. Meeting people through a screen is very difficult. It just takes out the warmth out of the relationship, and that is one of the biggest problems with the current pandemic for people. That's what was happening for us. Even though it was good for business, for my job, it wasn't good for me as a person. During the pandemic, when the pandemic hit last year around March, I was moved into a sales role for our company. I am based in India. Our major clients are based in the US, and that started the cycle of additional work. I was a decently good performer, I would say. I closed around 600,000 USD in about 7 months for the company. That is still the best performance in the company, like about a year later. So I would say I wasn't like the best of the best, but I was like a good enough or like better than average performer. But doing so much work has its side effects. Or the way I see it, there is always a trade-off. If you do something, you always are trading something off for it. So my days would be like 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock in the morning to 9 or 10 o'clock in the evening. When I was doing that, I was trading off my time with my wife. I had just gotten married in the beginning of 2020. I was trading my time with my wife. I had not realized that back then. The biggest thing which I did not realize I was trading off was my health. So I started doing this. I started doing sales for the company around March last year. I was pretty good at it. I kept, like, there were targets every month. I kept smashing through the targets like middle of the month every time, and the founder had to give me new targets. started scaling up the team, hired 4 or 5 people, fired a couple of people, eventually scaled the team up to 8 people, and then grew a lot of things. Like, if you want to know what I did, you can just have a look at my LinkedIn profile. I've listed all the achievements I've done during that time. But basically, it was a very stressful as well as a very hectic job that I was going through. And it's like there, then around the time of June, July last year, talks of burnout started happening in the company because a couple of people were feeling that. I was of the opinion that I'm young and I have the energy to push through anything and everything. I was already doing well in my role. And I'm like, okay, burnout exists, but it doesn't exist for me. It exists for people out there. I'm not one of those people who are going to be burnt out. And 1 month later, beginning of August, I realized that that is not true. I am also a human being. And the biggest trade off that I had done in the past couple of years working on startups, or past 9 years, technically, I would say, working on startups, was my health. I literally one day I realized that I couldn't get out of bed. It was extreme physical and mental exhaustion for me. Not just physical and mental, it was emotional exhaustion for me as well. During that time, luckily, uh, because of my performance and my connection with the team, I was able to get some time. I didn't have to work like 16 hours a day anymore. I could work like 5 or 6 hours. But during that burnout time, I couldn't work for more than half an hour, even 30 minutes at a time. If I used to sit for 30 minutes, I used to be so tired that I had to go to bed. I had to sleep for 1.5 hours, 2 hours. And then I was able to get back up, again work for 30 to 45 minutes, again go back to sleep for like 90 to 120 minutes. That was the kind of burnout, extreme burnout I went through. It eventually took me like around very rigorous therapy, not, yeah, very rigorous therapy, I would say, and a lot of regime of self control to get back. In the month of August, I started working again in September, and to recover completely from that burnout, it actually took me till like April, May of this year. I would say I recovered completely in the May of this year, and towards the end of May of this year. And then I again went, I had decided that, okay, I have made a mistake. I have put work before my health, and I'm not going to do that ever again. Then I went full force again into my work. I took up a new role, or like I had already taken up a new role, started working on it, started building a new project, a new sales channel for our company. Build that great, started doing sales for it, and eventually it started happening the same way again. I started taking early morning calls, 9 o'clock calls. Then instead of ending at 6, started going to 7, 8, 9, 10 o'clock. And it's like this time, luckily, I realized the symptoms earlier. I luckily saw that, okay, this is again repeat of last year. And then eventually, I just went back to my team. I analyzed the situation and then realized that, okay, this is not the kind of work I want to do. I don't want to get burnt out again. And I went back to the team, and I think Monday, yeah, 2 days ago, I resigned from my post in my company. And now, yeah, now I'm talking to you guys here. So the point of this is, the reason I think I can talk about burnout is because I have been through a complete cycle of getting to extreme levels of burnout and then recovering from it. And then I was in the middle of the second cycle, and luckily I think I have prevented it. I don't know if I have. Time will tell if I have or not. If I'm sleeping for 15 hours a day next month, then I haven't prevented it. Let's see, time will tell. But that's my quick background, and that's why I think I can talk about a sensitive issue like burnout. So what is burnout? So this is again an internet definition. Everything I'm going to put out here, you'll find somewhere or the other on the internet. I've just, these slides and my talk is simply around what I feel and what I have been through in my experience. Just wanted to share that. Maybe I can help a couple of people. So, burnout is defined as a state of emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion. It is when we say exhaustion, it means that you just can't do anything anymore. You can't put in emotions into a relationship. You can't put in emotions into yourself. When we say physical exhaustion, you just can't do work. You can't go get up and walk for a kilometer or half a mile even. Mental exhaustion, similarly, you can't analyze, you can't think. If you just start thinking, your brain doesn't work. It just doesn't help you think. It doesn't want you to think. That is the kind of situation, or that is the kind of that is what happens to you and your body when you are in burnout. It typically occurs when you are overwhelmed, emotionally drained, and unable to meet constant demands. So I'll go into a bit more around this in this slide. So this, from my experience, these are the reasons why burnout happens to someone. So my company, it is an amazing company, but it is a hyper growth startup. I've worked with a lot of hyper growth startups in the past. One thing I know, any and every hypergrowth startups needs a lot of effort and a lot of time. Time implies a lot of stress. And that is one of the biggest reasons for burnout: overworking, putting in 15, 16, 17 hours. Now, even if not that, consistently putting in 10 to 12 hours over a period of 10 years or 12 years burns you out. For me, I put in 15, 16 hours over a period of 4, 5 years. That's why I burnt out. So, consistent overworking is one of the biggest reasons for burnout. When you have, and when you're working in certain environments, you do have stress. So first burnout for me was majorly work stress driven because I had too much stuff to do. The second burnout, it was a combination of work and personal stress. The personal stress was, I was mentioning to Julian earlier that I have built a mathematical model for me retiring in 3 years from now. So like I want to retire before I get to like the 31 age. That was like my mental model. I built a model around it, built like put in a lot of numbers, and it was a pretty complicated model. But it once I built it out, I was very happy, very excited that yes, I can do this. I thought this is something which would be cool. But eventually, that started adding a lot of pressure on me because there were certain numbers I was supposed to hit. It is an extremely aggressive model that I had built. I wanted to retire at a half the age of someone like a normal person would, and that was just way too aggressive. I don't know if it is possible or not. It might be, it might not be. I still think it is, but again, the trade off is not worth it. That sticking to that model, trying to make those numbers realistic, making that happen was just adding too much pressure. It was just adding too much stress to me. And I eventually, when I decided to let go of my position, I also decided to let go of my model. I've just changed it from 3 years to 12 years. And 12 years, I don't feel any pressure right now. Honestly, I do feel some pressure, but again, I'm recovering from it. And hopefully, in a few weeks, I will be able to get over that. So, this goes into the next point I wanted to mention was unrealistic expectations and unrelenting high standards. I am a person who likes to do stuff, who likes to achieve. I have an overachieving personality. I like to overachieve. I've been to an IIT, which is kind of like the peak of overachieving people in India. And that's, I think that's where it comes from. But because of this overachieving personality, because of these unrealistic expectations, extremely high standards, I was just overworking all the time. I had very high expectations, and I was just adding too much stress to myself. And these were some of the reasons, first time as well as second time for me, for me getting burnt out. Then a few more things which can happen in current situation, which kind of happened for me for the in the first burnout, which is lack of emotional support. So it's like most of us, or like not most of us, every one of us, human beings in general, are social animals. We live in herds, right? That is like built into our psyche that we are social animals. We live in herds. We love to interact with other human beings. That is just general human nature. And because of this pandemic, most of us have not been able to go and meet our friends, haven't been able to hang out with our friends. And somewhere that weakens the bond. Even if it is your best friend of 20, 25 years, If you're used to meeting them every other day or every weekend, and you don't meet them for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 months, it just weakens that bond. And then same thing which you would talk to them very easily, you might not be comfortable sharing with them. So that was one thing which happened during my first burnout, that I was spending so much time on work, I literally had no time for anyone, not even my wife. I had mentioned earlier, I wasn't spending too much time with my wife. It was so difficult that everything in my life, I was just trying to solve it myself. I wasn't taking any help. And that just led to a feeling of overwhelm. And overwhelm again goes back into excessive stress, it goes back into overworking. So getting that emotional outlet, getting that emotional support is extremely necessary. And a couple of things from top leads to the next point, which is irregular and insufficient sleep. When you are overthinking, when you are emotionally drained, when you are working too much, most of the times your brain keeps working and you don't let it rest. Or it's not conscious a lot of times. Most of the times it does happen unconsciously, but our brain doesn't rest. And even if you have like 5 or 6 or 8 hours of sleep, you just don't feel like you have rested at all. A lot of times it just feels like you've worked for those 5 to 8 hours in the night. So that irregular or insufficient restful sleep also leads to burnout. These are some of the reasons for burnout. Then I wanted to point out a few signs which I saw this time and I was able to see in retrospect in the first time. So being physically so physical and emotional reasons I've mentioned here. Physically tired, being drained. So you rest for some time, you feel drained, even though if you have rested. You wake up in the morning, couple of hours of work, you feel very tired. Even if it is Monday or Tuesday, you still feel very tired. That is a big sign of burnout. Lowering immunity, frequent illness. So basically, what I mean by lowering immunity or frequent illness is changes in the way things happen. It's like if you're a person who doesn't fall ill like for 6 months, or if you get a small bug like once in a year or twice in a year, and you suddenly got a bug like 3 times in a quarter, that's a big deal. That is changes in your body. That is your body's way of telling you that, dude, hold on, something is wrong here, please have a look. That is your body telling you, please have a look. Most of the people do ignore it. I would suggest us not to do that. The next one is something which I personally experience a lot. When I'm stressed, when I'm overworked, or when I'm going through burnout, I have a lot of headaches. Headaches, muscle pains. This is something which was the biggest indicator for me right now to decide on my current path of action. I have been having headaches for like last 1.5 months. I'd started having muscle pain in like last 2 3 weeks. So that is again another thing. It is exactly same what I said about the earlier point. It's your body desperately shouting out to you, dude, slow down. Dude, slow down. You will kill yourself. That is what your body is telling you. And this, all of these physical symptoms or physical signs are your body's way of telling you that you are just going way too fast. This is not a sprint. This is a marathon. And your body is telling you that you're just going way too fast. Change in appetite or sleep habits, again, same thing. It is your body's way of telling you to slow down a little bit. Emotionally, there is a big change in the emotional state of a person. I inherently am a extremely self-confident and in the face kind of a person. I don't fear failure. If you look at my profile, I failed on startups 3 times. I have done 11, 12 different roles after my 3 startups. Multiple roles, some consulting roles, some full-time roles. I'm not afraid of failure. I just can't deal with it. I think it's just a stepping stone in on the way forward. But last few weeks, I have had immense amount of self-doubt. Every time by default, my reaction, whenever I think of a problem, my default reaction normally is, okay, this is a problem, this is the goal, I'll figure it out. But in the last few weeks, first reaction or first thought in my mind would be, can I do this? Is this actually capable? Am I capable of doing this? That was another sign for me, which I took from my mind, that okay, the mind is being drained way too much. Same thing, feeling helpless, trapped, or defeated. You start having self doubts, you start questioning everything you do, and then it becomes a deadly cycle. It becomes a negative cycle, and it goes into being feeling helpless, feeling trapped, feeling detached from the world, feeling that there is no one out there to help you. Loss of motivation when you're not, again, all of these things are basically, they are like they play into one another. You don't feel confident about doing something, you don't feel motivated about doing it. You lose motivation, your outlook towards stuff changes. You start looking at only the negatives and not the positives. I believe that every coin has two sides. Every cloud has a silver lining. You just have to find it. But emotional sign of burnout is how much ever you think, or typically you can't even think of a positive side, or you can't even imagine that in certain situations there can be a positive side. And all of this leads to decreased satisfaction and sense of accomplishment. You don't, whatever you do, like last year, I told you the numbers earlier, I did so much sales, but at the end of the day, when I was there in August, September, I didn't feel like I had done anything big. It was until like April, May of this year, when I completely recovered from the burnout, that I realized, no, dude, this is not a normal feat. Not too many people in the world during this pandemic would have been able to bring in $600,000 in 7 months to any company. So that sense of accomplishment, which I would have normally seen very easily, I just didn't see for months together. So that was another sign for my burnout last time. This time, luckily, I haven't gone there yet. So let's hope that I don't go there in the next few weeks. Burnout also changes your behavior a lot of times. So we tend to, again, so it's pretty simple, right? It's pretty in my head, at least it is very straightforward, that your thought process changes, your mindset changes, and then your mind technically controls your bodily actions. And once your mindset changes, your actions change, so your behavior would change. You, like, when you are in stuck in the negative loop or self-destructive loop, you start to go away from responsibilities because you don't believe you can do it. You start to go away from people because you don't think anyone likes you. You don't think you're going to add any value to any conversation. What is the use of going to a party, or what is the use of calling a friend when all they are going to do is bitch about me or not like me or ignore me? Things like that. Typically, if you do something in a certain way, you don't do it that way. You procrastinate doing things, using food, like people, luckily I haven't done this, but people do start taking help of alcohol or drugs to numb the pain. You would have seen it in movies. I have seen it in real life that actually drugs and alcohol, the pain is so high that you have to take external stimulants to numb the pain, just to numb the pain. And next one is something which I did a lot when I was burnt out last time. I was extremely irritable. The biggest, like the simplest example of me being irritable was, I had ordered an ice cream and I wanted to eat it. My wife opened it up and she just had one bite. It took like 5 seconds for her to take that bite. But I got so mad at her that I really wanted to eat that ice cream. Why did you waste time? Why didn't you give it to me immediately? So, in retrospect, it was a very stupid thing to do, but it wasn't frustration on her. It wasn't the frustration for those 5 seconds. It was the burnout speaking. And this is just one of the examples. It was the burnout speaking in multiple scenarios where I was just able to, or like unable to technically control my frustrations. And it was just coming out on my wife because she's the closest person to me. And then last one is typical, it's like you're overworked, you're stressed because of work, you don't want to take too many responsibilities. Naturally what you do is you start leaving early, you start coming in late, you start skipping work just because you have leave. That is exactly what I had started doing in last few weeks. Like every, again, it was because of headaches, or at least I told myself it was because of headaches. I don't know how my unconscious or my mind built the reasoning up, but I skipped work like once every week for 3 weeks. that was another sign for me that I wasn't committing 100% to my work, and I wasn't in the right mindset, or I wasn't in the right place to continue to do the job I was supposed to. And that's when I've already mentioned, I've decided to move on from the role. Recovering from burnout. So, after talking about all of this, how burnout happens, how do you see burnout is there, what are the symptoms, what burnout means, ideally, it is important. If you know you're getting to burnout or you have already burnt out, you should recover. So, first step, in my opinion, is being aware. The first step to change is awareness. You have to be aware that, yes, I am burnt out or I am on the path of burnout. Just identify the burnout, get help after that. It's like, if you remember, when you're burnt out, you try to isolate yourself. Don't do that. Try to get help. During my first time, I spoke to 4 or 5 leaders in the company who were like, basically 4 or 5 people who were part of the leadership along with me. I spoke to them. I told them this is what I was going through. Everyone was supportive. I spoke to my therapist. She helped me work things out. I spoke to my wife. I spoke to my parents. I spoke to my friends. It just getting that feeling of belongingness, getting that feeling of emotional connection, that just helps. That just helps. It might not help you to get out of burnout completely, but that improves your mood. It raises your spirit, and that helps in coming out of burnout. Once you are in better spirits, try to understand who you are, what matters to you, what is important, what truly matters to you. From my burnout, there were a few things which I learned about myself. For me, family matters. For me, happiness matters. For me, money doesn't matter as much as other things. I want to be happy. I want to be able to give time to my wife, to my family. I want to be able to give time to my health and my mental well being. These are the things which I know. Once you figure that out, that gives you a framework. This thing has given me a framework to make my decisions, to decide what I want to do, how I want to do it. So understand what truly is important and what matters to you. Based on that, you can redefine your life and your priorities. Again, same example I'm going to come back to. I realized that in my current role, even though I still love the company, I might stay a few more weeks and like maybe push forward my resignation just because I don't want the company to suffer because of me leaving. But I still love the company, but it is not aligned with me. It is not aligned with my values. So you can redefine your life and your priorities based on what you learn about yourself. Post that, once you have started doing it, then there are certain lifestyle changes that helps dealing with burnout and recovering from burnout. So identifying what helps you relax. For me, there are certain things which definitely help me relax. One of the things is I go to a place of natural beauty. I sit and I just see nature. It helps. First time I had gone to Dharamshala, that's in the Himalayas. I spent 4 days there. It really helped. This time I went to a city called Udaipur, which is called the City of Lakes. I just spent 4 days there solo, just spend the time with nature. Now, right now, when I am like at the like again, every day you can't just take leave and go out there. But identifying what helps you relax is important. What I do now is I know nature helps. I go to a garden, I close my eyes, I sit there, I visualize the earlier visions I had, the places where I had been to earlier, and that helps me relax. End of the day, I spend like 15 to 20 minutes every day just closing my eyes and relaxing. It helps me relax. Building new habits, like for example, building habits is one of the most crucial things in a remote work environment. There is like when we went to office, it was very simple. You move out of the door, office is done, work is done. But today, that's very difficult. So build habits around starting and ending of your work. For me, when I wake up, I fold my blanket, I brush my teeth, I make my coffee, I sit in the balcony, I drink the coffee, I meditate. That is my morning routine. Ending routine, I close my laptop, I remove my chargers, I remove my mouse, remove my keyboard, put everything on top of each other into the drawer, switch off the lights, switch off the fan, leave the room. That's my ending routine. Train your body, train yourself. And it's like it's small things. Start with one thing at a time. Start with closing the laptop every day and signifying and telling yourself that when I close my laptop, end of my day. Then keep building on top of it. One thing at a time, keep building it, build one habit a month, and that helps. That's how I have built my habits. Building habits is pretty simple. It doesn't build overnight. You have to put in a lot of effort and time into it. But best thing which I've seen working is building one habit a month has like I've just told you my routine. I haven't built this overnight. I built these two routines over like 6, 7, 8 months, one thing at a time. It's just that. And last but not least, set boundaries. These boundaries are not just from work. Set boundaries with work, set boundaries with personal goals, set boundaries with your family. Set boundaries for everything that you feel you need boundaries for. Overdoing anything is not good for anyone's health. So setting boundaries and trying to stick to them as much as possible, as much as is realistic, makes sense. And that's though that is like that has been my way of recovering from burnout. That has helped me once, that has helped, I think that has helped me twice. Again, as I've said earlier, I don't know if I am burnt out right now. Time will tell. I don't think I am. But yes, the same routines, the same recovery tips that I've mentioned here have helped me twice recover from my burnout. So that's all I had for you guys today. That has been my story. That has been my journey. I am, yeah. If you guys have any questions, I'm I'm happy to answer.
Thank you so much, Ashwin. That's really a wonderful talk. Like, I think I am burnt out because of the signs that you have mentioned. So I'll try to do the recovery things that you have said. Maybe because of the projects and assignments from college. So those signs are really true. So I'm starting to see it now. I wasn't able to see it before. Thank you
Yep.
for sharing. So, anyone would like to share their insights and also ask questions, please feel free to unmute yourself. Okay. Or you can also send your questions to the Q&A or chat. Mr. Ashwin will be staying with us still.
Yep.
Okay, so no one's
Right.
confident as of the moment. So we will be heading to the next topic for today. So this will be discussed by the founder of Block Matrix ID Solutions with 15 plus years of diverse professional experience in solutions engineering, pre-sales, business development in the IT and ITS industry. And he is also an entrepreneur and a blockchain and cryptographic researcher assisting organizations to benefit from revolutionary technology. And here is with us Mr. Venu Borra, who will be talking about how blockchain is revolutionizing global business. Over to you.
All right. Thank you very much for the introduction. All right. And I also thank my fellow panelist, Ashwin, for good information on burnout. I mean, it's his perspective, and I appreciate all the information that he passed on. Hope it is helpful for viewers out here. All right, my conversation was a kind of more technical, but I just wanted to cut it down to ensure that the audience will learn about what blockchain is all about. There's a lot of hype, there's a lot of structure around it, there are a lot of FUD or understanding about the technology around. So what we'll try to do is in this time that we have around 20-30 minutes, we'll try to understand what it is all about. I just have a quick slide to understand to help you understand what it is exactly about, and what its impact is in the current market in terms of any industry, any vertical, and how it is beneficial. Right, let me share the screen. Right, let me know if you guys are able to see my screen, and then I'll. Okay.
Yes.
All right, all good. All right.
Yes, all good.
So now, basically, blockchain is a iteration, or it's a kind of style to a previously used method called distributed ledger technology. Essentially, what we are trying to do is, instead of bringing all the information in a conventional world, for that matter, to distributed systems. So you basically put information in different locations, and their data can be acquired or pulled up in an easy and quick manner. So what are the characteristics of it? So basically, if you look at more shortened definition, if you say, all the information that is being stored on servers is not just put it on one place. It is actually put in different locations or different organizations or disparate locations just for the ease of access. That's a distributed ledger technology, which basically is open. So basically, will give an option of connecting in different ways, distributed, of course, and it's just a recording mechanism. Just save it. Now let's move on to the next slide. So how different is it from the current environment? Now, the current environment is basically uh, dominated by big players like, be it Apple, Facebook, Google, of course, and other big players in different industries, meet banking sector. These are held by big names, and the data is directly going to them, and then we as consumers take the information, or in fact users of that particular services from these companies, use it from their central locations. So that means everything is run, entire show is run by them. They set the rules. They have the data that has been used all across. And of course, this being not transparent, there is always an issue of where the data is coming from, data legitimacy, and of course, there is a lot of human intervention with all the geopolitical reasons and so on. Now, there is a different way of looking at the information being more accessible and more trustworthy mechanism. That's where blockchain fits in. Now, if you look at blockchain, blockchain, the word is nothing but it boils down to having a proof of information at a 30,000-foot level. It's just a book of information, but it is tied up with some sort of proof that it exists at a certain point of time. So if you ask me a more layman definition of it, just a record book with cryptography or in it, just to ensure the data is secure, and whoever uses it is good good enough to get more valid, and data is given to him in a consistent manner. What this basically means is you're kind of creating a system which is having the provenance from day one to whichever is the end use case. We'll talk about it, and I'll just try to put it more in more layman terms, and then we can probably go to different aspects how it can help. So with cryptography and a systematic record of information is maintained at certain time, you can always go back to the system for a timeline or a history, okay, and or proof of reference anytime. That is the biggest asset of a blockchain. Now let's move on. It's a brief history, very short history. So blockchain at this point of time is very nascent. I mean, it started everything started in 2009. So it's like the internet around the 90s, where having an email was a big thing, where having a Hotmail account or just able to get onto a computer, create an email was the biggest thing. But you see the internet now. It has gone through many iterations, changes, and now it is Web 3.0 internet with IoT devices, an explosion of usage of IoT. Now, if you compare with that analogy, blockchain is just at that phase of 90s right now, where everything started with a white paper or information from the Bitcoin creator. Mind you, blockchain is not spelled Bitcoin. The reason is the potential of blockchain is much bigger compared to Bitcoin. Bitcoin is just one fruit of it, one side of it. So 2009 start of blockchain mechanism, even though the distributed ledger technology was coined way back in 1980s, it's gone into existence and a real use case has come in the year 2009. That the reason was, the reason for bringing Bitcoin into the picture was back in 2009 in the US, there was a huge financial crisis where banks were bailed out. Basically, banks were going, bankrupt, no money in the systems, and people were kind of not being able to recover money from banks, their deposits, and etc. So this guy, Satoshi Nakamoto, has thought about a distributed system which can give the power of handling the money on their own instead of giving it to a central authority like bank. So it started there, but if you look at blockchain, even till now, it's almost 11, 12 years now. If you look at it, it's just a transfer of value. It has got no other thing apart from transferring value. And of course it's the reason why it's got a lot of market cap is because it's got a limited value, and by the token of economics, if you see demand and supply, of course supply is very low out here, 21 million, and the demand is high because people do consider as a big asset, digital asset right now. So apart from that, it does not have really much thing to do. So in 2000, things started around 2016, or I would say 2015, where Ethereum got into the stage where it has shown the ability to program something called smart contracts. So that basically means you can build applications on a blockchain infrastructure. So that started a way, and of course we will not get into the depth of it. Of course, you can always reach out to me or through the forum, and we can always talk about any interesting topic. So Ethereum paved the way for more exchanges, more opportunities for people out there. So now if you see, the blockchain has been experimenting a lot. There are like 3,000, 4,000 protocols in the market right now to tell you how a distributed system can work. But till now, Ethereum has been the stable one. And of course, there are more promising blockchains available in the market. So that's a short story. Now, if you look at it, when blockchain essentially avoids the intermediary and also ensures that there is a proof of every action taken. So it's blockchain is considered to be very secure, and of course, I would consider it secure. However, there are endpoints to it. The data that flows into it and comes out of it are most vulnerable areas. That's how you will hear a lot of hacking around these input output of the data on the blockchains. Now let's move on. So now, this is a small decision tree. I made it for this presentation. Now, as I said, blockchain has to go through this system just to understand, do you really need a blockchain or do you really don't need a blockchain? People do ask me this question because I, as a panelist told in the introduction, you see me, I do talk about blockchain, AI, and IoT. That's the whole motto of me starting an organization, trying to provide solutions with a combination of these niche technologies. But I always encourage my clients or inquiries to go through this kind of workflow that will help us understand whether you do really need a blockchain or don't need a blockchain. This would basically give an idea whether which direction to take that will help set up the whole system, whole IT infrastructure. So basically, the three things that comes into picture is: do you need a shared access, or do you trust the people who are handling the data, or do you need a controlled mechanism, or do you think it should be open? These kind of systems will help come up with a solution where it has to be public or a private, or do you actually need a blockchain or not. So I'll move on. So as I said, this is a bookish definition on Wikipedia. If you normally look at it, all that we've been talking around all this while is just defined in more specific terms. It's just a book of records and so on. This is a definition, but if you look at it, everything is in blocks. Blocks have information, pieces of information with timestamps and the data to and fro information where it has come from or not. Now, other interesting that I would probably like to add apart from this slide is there is another way of looking at blockchains, which are distributed acyclic graphs. Something you might have heard. People are, if people are aware of this space, you'll also hear something called IOTA or a phantom, which serves the Web 3.0. So this is a new way of looking at it. So the types of blockchains that we have right now are public, private, and consortium-based blockchains. I'll probably give you an example going forward. How do these work? So essentially, blockchains are a network of nodes or computers. It's like the group of people trying to decide which transaction or which part is good or which information is good. For example, we are a group. Now we form a blockchain, or we form kind of trust or a network, trying to pass information which one another. So we will have to agree. All of them have to agree in order to ensure that the step or the transaction, for here in this case, we're passing an information to one person to another. Everybody has to agree around it to see if the information is passed right and it's validated that way. So that's called consensus. So what does a consensus in a blockchain world basically mean? It is a collaborative and a cooperative effort to agree to something. It can be a transaction. It can be a governance on governance in the sense taking decisions as to how the whole group should work, function. And the key is, it has to be participatory, and there are some consensus methods where you can actually elect, like a democratic model, like democracy. You can actually elect people to run these consensus model, and etc. That's one way of looking at it. Now let's move on. So this is an interesting slide, which I will probably not throw. I'll not go deep into it. So it's called Byzantine generals problem. You can actually Google it. There is a lot of information around that. There's quite an interesting story here. This empire that you see in the middle, the graph that you see in the middle, okay, is a strong empire, and everybody. It's just a story of what exactly this, BFT or Byzantine general problem is. Everybody around this kingdom are enemies who are trying to conquer the castle or the kingdom. If you look at it, all the people around are trying to basically attack to conquer this particular kingdom, which is very strong. But all of them individually know that if they attack individually, there is no chance that they will win it. So that means it is very evident that all of them have to come together. All the enemies have to come together and then attack. That's when they would probably conquer this kingdom. But the twist here would be is you don't know if the people that are the other enemy generals are really trustworthy with each other, or else are trying to manipulate each other's armies so that they would probably take the advantage and so on. So there's a lot of confusion which needs to take care. So that's how this is a general problem that is solved in different ways within different protocols. So Bitcoin has its way of consensus method. So that means we all these generals have to come into agreement. That is called consensus. So every blockchain or DAG or a directed acyclic graph have to come to an agreement in different styles, which I'm going to talk about. You can always Google BFT problem or Byzantine problem. Should be able to know more information about it. And as I said, these are the popular agreement methods or consensus methods. So Bitcoin is currently on proof of work. I mean, it's going to be on proof of work. Basically, there is an incentive mechanism to ensure the network is running. These are called miners, and these people usually mine the Bitcoin. It's an altogether a complete topic in its own, but you can just know as there is a set process of solving puzzles to come into consensus and build new coins on the network. There is, of course, Ethereum, the popular blockchain, is also proof of work right now, but it's going to be proof of stake probably by next year. There are a lot of reasons why Ethereum is trying to move that way. There is proof of stake, which is popular in a lot of popular blockchains, like Cardano, or you have EOS, and of course we have Polkadot and so on. And proof of authorities are there, like Ripple is one where you have a KYC involved, where for the consensus, you just to understand who is the right person validating the information. And proof of correctness is one. So there are a lot of consensus methods in these 3,000 protocols that I've been talking about. Now, so there are, as I said, there are three kinds of blockchains: public, private, and consortium. Quick examples: public would be Bitcoin, Ethereum; private, it's going to be Monax and Multichain; and consortium is consortium basically is group of companies coming together to solve their industry problems. Banks have come together to with the R3 Foundation to build their banking specific blockchain system, and so on. Energy is EWF, and etc. Now, this is going to be a brief of how a transaction works in an existing blockchain world. There'll be a sender and a receiver. So sender would basically have his private keys and also information that the transaction wants to create. Now, he has to basically tell where he wants to transfer the amount of Bitcoins, let's say, for example, Bitcoins. And it is tied with the private key. The information is hashed. Basically, it's an algorithm, cryptographic algorithm that goes through the agreement process, and it goes to the receiver. What receiver has to do is use his private key and decrypt the information so that he will sign the agreement, and then he would basically get his Bitcoins onto his account. That's the whole process. Now, this is a quick summary of which platforms it can help. And this is where, here, the major USP out here, or the big thing out here is, or in fact, I would say, I'm trying to find the words. I'm just trying to use the best possible word. Now, the best part in blockchains can be used anywhere. Excuse me. They can be used in a variety of industries and in a very broader sense. So it is not limited to one particular industry or be it IT or so. It's just purely ability to think and use the blockchain in a systematic manner. So with that being said, a quick introduction to this. I'll probably stop the presentation now. Let me put it on the same slide. Give me 1 second. Okay, I'll just put the slide here. Now, I was talking about Industry 4.0. Now, what exactly is in Industry 4.0? Now, in the beginning of this conversation, I was talking about how the internet has been shaping up. Earlier, it just was a piece of device or information that has been transferred, like one quick email. Next, things have started with applications decentralized. I'm sorry, centralized applications like Facebook, and of course, we have apps and so on. But now we have IoT devices in the market, connected cars, smart cities, everything. We have machine to machine communication these days. You don't really need human intervention for data being transferred from one computer to other computer nowadays. There are sensors around. This is the explosion that has been coined with the term Web 3.0. The data which is out in the market is huge, and it is projected that there'll be 500 billion IoT sensors, probably another a decade, more than that, 500 billion sensors around. That's much more than the existing population. And this is just an estimation. Numbers may vary. But the point I'm trying to make is all these connected devices are throwing a lot of data, which might or might not be validated. We as humans would try to validate if the information is right or not. So blockchain can play a huge role out there, because as I said in the beginning, blockchain is all about providing the proof, much required proof. This can help in industries like supply chain, which is supply chain or fintech, which are four most areas where blockchain has its core demand right now, and it can show real potential. So it can, to start with, it can give points of connectivity or provenance, where that means origin to the end user. For example, there is a commodity. So there are some use cases where in Africa that are being currently used, where the coffee, which is very popular, one of the popular coffees from Africa, is being tracked right from the farm to the table, or the packaging store that is being there. So the customer who's trying to buy that coffee knows which farm it came from, which is difficult in current world scenario, where they don't really know if it has been adulterated or if it's the most genuine stuff. So people nowadays are very conscious about authenticity of certain product or authenticity of certain goods, for that matter. And of course, food is one which is very important. People are really worried post the COVID virus, to consume food which is out in shelves, cold storage, and etc. Now, this can prove a lot of value. So when it comes to use cases, as I said, being broad in its approach or not limited to one particular industry, it has already gained a lot of attention with these new protocols. So according to PNS Newswire and recent survey, by 2027, blockchain is going to go around 40 billion US dollars in revenue. Industry-wise, it might go much higher than that. We are expecting that, and in fact, I'm expecting a lot about it because of the explosion in the decentralized finance space. Fintech, it's another area that basically will give a lot of opportunities to people who want to get into this arena. And as I said, this personally is according to me, is a wonderful area for future innovators or people who are aspiring to bring the change in the environment, or for that matter, each industries, because this is still at a nascent age where people are appreciating experimentation in every aspect. And cryptocurrency is another whole uh, gamut of services or systems where it is completely trading, market, and everything. But there is an adoption around enterprise applications which can really bring these kind of changes. We look at it about a whole list here, a plethora of industries where it can be used. So that's where I would like to end, because this is a topic I can go on talking for hours together, and I'm open to any questions if there are any, or you can always contact me through the forum. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much, Venu, for dicing out, making it as concise as possible, but it's really a long and broad topic. But anyway, thank you for giving us the informations on blockchain. So Venu is now open for questions. Please do unmute yourself or type in the Q&A section or in the chat. Okay. Well, if you have any questions or queries, or you wish to get in touch with our speakers, they are available on LinkedIn. So you can search Ashwin Nandapurkar and Venu Borra. So they're both approachable, and you can send message to them through LinkedIn. Again, thank you so much, speakers, for your time and your knowledge that you have shared to us today. Speaking with the such unique topics and very interesting topics, and also for the inspiration and the energy you've poured into the presentations you have given us today. And also to let everyone know, we have our live Youth Let Us Talk It webinar every other Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. So you can join the preparation sessions every Tuesday and Thursday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time by registering at our website, letustalkit.com/youth. So for younger youth group, we have preparation sessions Tuesday and Thursday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. This week, we have live youth webinar on Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, and the topic is amazing facts about physics. Hope you all can join this youth webinars. This would also encourage our youth. All right. So again, speakers, thank you so much for your time, Venu and Ashwin.
Pleasure.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to have you in our uh, webinar that we have
All right.
that's free for everyone.
Have a good
So
one,
again,
guys. Thank you.
you can reach them out through LinkedIn. And thank you for participating today. You have a great day.
Thank you so much for having me. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.